People often wonder whether HRT changes your brain fundamentally. Does it change who you are? This video will explore that exact question. Lovely audience, have you ever came out to someone and one of the first things they said was, "Don't those HRT things change the brain? Doesn't it change who you are? Will you lose who you are?" Even if hormone replacement therapy changes some aspects of your body's chemistry, it doesn't change who you are. You will wake up the next day after taking HRT and you will still be you. HRT pills are not the symbiote from Spider-Man. It will not take over your brain and it will not influence who you are as a person. The only one that does that is you. Whether you take HRT or not, you are still in control of your own actions. Yes, we're influenced by the society around us, that's for sure. However, your individual decision making is actually not compromised by taking hormone replacement therapy. The thing is, all it changes is puberty-related things, right? You have likely experienced a puberty before. Maybe it was a puberty you didn't like. Even though that changed parts of your body, it didn't change who you were. For a trans person, despite going through that puberty, that testosterone or estrogen taking over your body didn't change who you were. You know what I mean? Sure, it might change how you look, sound, and that kind of thing. However, if you're watching a video about transgender information, chances are that puberty did not convert you to be a cis person. And hormone replacement therapy works the same way. Puberty influences parts of the body, however, the brain, the wonderful little essence of whatever makes us, us. I admit, I was pretty afraid of this when I was going into starting hormones. I remember writing in a journal the night before I started HRT, being curious if I would still be me. And the truth is, yeah, you will still be you. It's just you'll be you with a different puberty, right? Now, hormones can affect stuff like sex drives and how you deal with emotions. However, the way you feel as a person is unchanged. It might be easier to cry, however, you'll still feel the same way internally about the challenges around you. Even if hormones affect how easy it is to cry, for example, whether you're taking estrogen or testosterone, how you feel as a person is still unchanged. I do remember talking with a trans man that expressed kind of missing the ability to be able to cry at movies as easily. However, that person still experiences emotion and feels moved by movies and still enjoys the media that he enjoyed before. It just changes roughly how we experience something, but it doesn't change what we experience. If you like watching a funny comedy show, you will still probably like watching a funny comedy show. Like sad movies, you'll probably still like sad movies. Maybe the lens in which you enjoy them will be a little different. However, it won't change the core essence of what makes us ourselves. As a counterpoint, it's worth considering that maybe the social expectations put upon us has restricted us to exhibit behaviors that aren't actually true to ourselves. And with transition, it kind of breaks those barriers, so to speak, and you might actually find stuff about yourself that is different than what you experienced before. Your hobbies might be a little different after HRT, however, it won't be because of HRT, if you catch my drift. When we're being more ourselves and being more socially ourselves, because HRT makes it a bit easier as a transition for many of us, that can open up opportunities that might have been closed before. So you might enjoy partaking in something you didn't partake in before. That's not because hormones changed and rewired your brain to enjoy it. Rather, you feel socially comfortable with participating in that hobby, you know what I mean? When I started hormones, I felt more comfortable getting into dancing a bit more than I was before. However, dancing isn't something that estrogen makes you able to do. There are plenty of cis men and trans men that enjoy dancing greatly, you know? And it doesn't change who we are if we like or don't like dancing. Sure, some hobbies might be easier to be into if emotions work a certain way. For example, estrogen can make us a little more emotional, so slightly more emotional media might resonate with us more. Or with sex drive changes, it may influence the type of romance media we enjoy. Even if hormone levels that make certain types of romance media may be more appealing suddenly, it doesn't change that the media you've enjoyed previously is still special to you. And that won't go away. The love and adoration you'll have for stuff you enjoyed in the past will still remain, as you are still you at the end of the day. Hormones can't make you a different person. They can make you maybe feel like one because of the social restrictions that have been lifted around us that allows us to explore ourselves beyond what was restricted upon us due to our assigned sex at birth. For example, I really like plushies. That won't be a surprise to anyone that watches my YouTube shorts. However, point is that I enjoyed plushies before I started estrogen, right? And when I started estrogen, I actually felt a little more attached to the plushies than I felt before. However, it's hard to attribute how much of that is like my hormones being a little different versus just being more comfortable with the hobby that I always had. You know? At the end of the day, we can't really, in a clean way, determine what is what. However, I still feel like myself. There are hobbies I'm less interested in nowadays. For example, as a teenager, I was really interested in various like weapon martial arts. Nowadays, I'm a little less interested in that, but that's not because of estrogen. I can still do those things. I could probably still use nunchucks just fine if the opportunity arose. It was just more so I was focused on other things. HRT didn't change that, to be honest. I could go back and do it anytime I want if I'd like to. And if you have stereotypically masculine or feminine hobbies, you can still do those even if you take estrogen or testosterone. If you're worried about hormones changing your brain, changing who you are, then I think the first thing to think about is what are you afraid of changing? It's worth considering what parts of ourselves we don't want to change, for example. Those parts of ourselves that feel so important to who we are, those things probably won't change. If you feel that strongly about it, that you're afraid of it going away, it probably won't. As we grow through this transitional stage that is transition, we often find that different hobbies will ebb and flow between different friend groups, different people around us, different work opportunities, different stages of life. There's parts of us that change, and that's fine. We are still who we are, though. We don't lose that fundamental thing that makes us, you know? For example, if you see someone that's maybe a bit older, and they've lived a longer life, chances are they could pinpoint certain phases of life where different things are more of a priority. However, the core of who they are has persisted throughout. Same is true for transition, right? Whatever age you're transitioning at, maybe you have experience, maybe you don't have experience of growth and change. Particularly for the younger viewers watching, maybe you haven't experienced that before, and it's okay to be scared of that. You know, there's ways that I have changed a little socially, and that's okay. I became a bit more expressive and emotive after HRT, but that was more because I didn't feel that depressed anymore. However, I'd attribute most of that to social stuff. You see, as dysphoria gets lessened due to HRT, I just feel more comfortable talking like this rather than, well, lacking expression and blank facing everything and not changing my intonation that much. Right? Things change. A lot of things change. However, who I am has not. You know? There's things from when I was really little I still love. And there's things, new things, that I started experiencing and enjoying. And some things ebb and flow. When I was really, really little, my main hobby was drawing, actually. I loved drawing like little picture books and taking them to school and showing everyone. I even made my own choose your own adventure books where I'd be like, you go to this page, that kind of thing. While I stopped doing that directly, nowadays I spend quite a lot of time painting and drawing like webcomics and like just having a fun time. So I'm still expressing that hobby, just in a different way. That core imaginative creative spirit, I view that very important to who I am. And maybe you feel different qualities make you, you, right? Whether you're a creative person or not, those little attributes, so to speak, HRT can't change that. If you like playing video games, hormones won't make you not enjoy video games. Sure, it might influence the kinds of games you might take on and enjoy later on, but you're still gonna love your favorites. Those won't go away. Your favorites will persist. If you like dancing, you'll still like dancing. Maybe different genres will speak to you a little more, but your favorite tried and true genres and your songs that carry that emotional weight, they remain. They all remain. Transition gives us lots of opportunities for growth and new experiences, and it's okay to be scared of those. There is a part that changes, so to speak, as there's different social stuff we had to do to get HRT in the first place. By the time you can even get HRT, chances are you've experienced various changes. And that's fine. Puberty is inherently awkward, especially the second time. And that's okay. Just know that different changes in your body might seem jarring. For example, you might have heard of mood swings from HRT with estrogen. Mood swings sometimes make my mood a little funny. Like sometimes I'll feel a little angry, a little sad, but a bit rapidly. However, I'm still me. I'm still the one going through that, if that makes sense. Those little changes will influence parts of how I speak, but it won't define who I am. To avoid getting particularly philosophical, so to speak, what makes you yourself? It's a good question to have. When I approached transition and HRT, I pondered what made me myself. What did I want to hold on to as I moved to a new stage of life, so to speak? And a couple persisted as important attributes. For myself, I liked my creative energy and ambition to do creative projects and things. I highly valued my energy and upbeatness when doing stuff like dancing or interacting with people. The part of myself that enjoys going to theme parks or blowing bubbles and being a bit of a goober. Those were the three things that came to mind of what made me, me. And maybe those couple of things would be different for you. And that's understandable, as we're all individuals. I understand we get caught up in what a trans person is or isn't, and it can be pretty loud. However, just know that when you take HRT, it doesn't change the core of who you are. You will still be you. You will still wake up the next day after taking HRT, hop into the shower like any other day, have food like any other day. You will still be in the same environment. You'll still be around the same people. To be honest, it's gonna feel very anticlimactic, to be honest with you. When I first got hormones and I took the first one, and I unfortunately lost footage of it, that would have been so good for a quirky TikTok years later. When I first took that pill and swallowed it and drunk some water down, I was like, now what? I remembered I had a nice dinner, some chicken schnitzel with chips from a local place, and I had that while playing Astro's Playroom, and I beat that game that night, and I played it for hours while eating a chicken schnitzel going, yeah, I guess this is where my life begins. That day itself, the hormones, they didn't take over my brain. I know people talk about that, but that usually comes down to transphobic rhetoric. They kind of benefit from making it seem as scary as possible. Their goal is to make less people transition, right? However, my goal, fundamentally, other than hoping that you like, comment, and subscribe, obviously, other than that, my goal is for you to hopefully feel comfortable to be yourself. What does that mean? I don't decide. You could get through this entire video and decide to be a cis man, cis woman, that's fine. Or maybe something else feels better. Maybe transition feels like the right step for you. If that's the case, I promise you one thing. When you transition, you will still be you, in a good way. There's parts of you that will change, and there's parts of you that will grow. However, at the end of the day, the person you were before, the person you are now, and the person that you will be is still you. You decide who that is. You write the next chapter of your life. And you're the author. Okay? And if part of that journey is taking HRT, you're welcome to. You can do that if you want. Or not, up to you. I hope you enjoyed this little video on whether HRT changes the brain. And the answer to that, of course, is not really. If you want to see more weekly trans videos about various topics, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. And if you have a specific topic you want me to cover, let me know, and I'll be happy to do so. As always, stay hydrated and know that you are valid for all the wonderful things that make you, you. I'm proud of you. See you next week.